Another week has passed, which means it's time for another update of the KC Lewis Show, episode 4. We're still in spring training, so we have some more games to review and a little bit of roster trimming. Unlike my diet, the Royals know what they're doing when it comes to trimming down the roster. But welcome back into another episode. So far, at the time of this recording and research, which is on 3/11. It will be coming out later this week. I decided to take a personal day. On the normal days, these recordings come out on Tuesdays. It will be coming out later in the week. Chose to take a personal day, and then classes as well. But anywho, at the time of this recording, the Royals are 11-6, 11 wins, 6 losses. Overall, on the week prior to this episode, they went 3 wins, 3 losses. Went 500. They also went 500 in run differential, or I guess for that stat it would be 0. They scored 33 runs and allowed 33 over the week. So we have 7 games to cover, technically 6. There was a rain delay and the game was not played. But let's get into it. So we pick up on March 5th, and it was against the Cubs. It was a win, 4-0. Game 2 of the week happened on the 6th, and was a loss against the Mariners. They ended up losing 7-8, or 8-7 more. Game 3 on the 7th was our rain delayed game. It was supposed to be at Colorado. Did not end up happening. Was rained out. And with spring training, it won't be made up. We go to game 4 on the 8th. It was at the Rangers, which is technically a home and away game. The Rangers and the Royals share the same facility, but the Rangers were the home team for the purposes of this game. And the Royals won 4-2. Game 5 on the 9th was Arizona comes to visit. It's a win for the Royals, 6-5. Game 7, we go to the A's. But last week, the A's came to us. We're going to the A's this week, and it was a loss, 6-3. And then Game 7 is on the 11th, and it is another loss. And the Giants came to town, and 2014 would show that the Giants play well against us. But that being said, they ended up winning 12-9, and the Royals taking the loss there. So that's our games to cover. I'm gonna modify the format of it. Out of just the editing purposes, I do not like editing key moments anymore. It's a lot of work. So instead, for those moments, we're just going to talk about the scoring in general. So that's how, because even then, like when I was doing the key moments last week, there are scoring moments that aren't accounted for because they weren't momentum swingers in a big advance. So instead, we'll just talk about all the scoring and hopefully trim down a little bit, save myself some effort in editing because that is not very fun. But enough about why the episode didn't come out on Tuesday and what's going to be different about the format going forward. I'll probably keep to this format as well moving forward when the regular season starts, for just like recapping. Probably continue to just highlight who's doing well, who's not doing so hot, and then what scoring looked like. And for the scoring, it'll just be both teams. But we get to our first game against the Cubs. It's a 4-0 victory. Let's get into the stats. So Brady Singer is starting. He goes 3 innings, gives up a hit, and 3 strikeouts in his 3 innings of work. Will Smith continued to have a pretty good start to the spring. He goes an inning, gives up a hit, gives up a walk, but that's about it. Alec Marsh, who has blossomed onto the scene this spring and has shown that he is making some big improvements in his game. He goes 3 innings, gives up a hit, 4 strikeouts, and at the time of this game, he has after this game, he has a 1.29 ERA. And then Sauer goes an inning, a hit, a walk, 3 strikeouts. He continued to have a 0 ERA. Let's talk about our starters and what they did. Maikel Garcia goes 0 for 2, gets an RBI, has a strikeout. Bobby Witt goes 1 for 3. Vinny goes 0 for 3. Nelson Velasquez goes 0 for 3 with a strikeout. And Tyler Gentry had a big game and mainly just one big swing. Goes 1 for 3 with 2 runs scored, 3 RBIs, and that one hit was a home run. A 3-run home run. But let's get to the scoring on that. So we get to the bottom of the third. Garcia hits a sac fly. Tyler Gentry scores. That's his first run scored. And then we get to the bottom of the seventh. Tyler Gentry home runs. Rodolfo Duran and Gavin Cross are on base, and they score. So that makes it to 3, and we get our final score of 4-0. Pretty straightforward. We get to game 2. It's against the Mariners. The Royals end up losing this one 8-7. And let's take a look at what was going on. So Angel Zerpa gets a start. He goes 3 innings, gives up 2 hits, 1 earned run, and 5 strikeouts. That 1 earned run is a home run. Chris Stratton continues to have a lukewarm, very shaky at times spring training. He goes an inning, 3 hits, 2 strikeouts, but does give up 2 earned runs. Josh Taylor goes an inning, gets a strikeout. Jake Brentz, who will probably not be making the opening day roster at this point. He doesn't do too hot. He hasn't not had a very good spring. He is coming back from injuries, but has really not been very impressive. He enters the game, doesn't record an out, so 0 innings pitched, 2 hits, 5 runs, 4 of them are earned. So that's 4 earned runs, 5 total given up by Brent, and doesn't record an out on this one. And then MacArthur, getting back into shape, pitches 2 innings, 4 strikeouts. So, besides Brent, offensively, or not offensively, but for the most part, it was a pretty good day in pitching. There's some other pitchers that I don't highlight. They're either just fighting for the roster spot or didn't do anything that spectacular or terrible. As this show will highlight both good and bad, we have to talk about the dualities of things. But enough about pitching for game 2. Let's get to our bats. And another thing I didn't like about last week's format, and I'm going to adjust moving forward, is I'm just going to take the box score in a sense, and we'll talk about extra base hits, RBIs, once we get to the regular season where I can do my numbers thing, which I'm hoping and anticipating for every day until the 28th when the regular season starts. All right, so we get to our bats. MJ Melendez, Michael Massey, and Cropley all hit doubles. Perez and Michael Massey hit home runs. So, anyone who got on base. Alexander got a base and total bases. Cropley had 2. Nate Eaton had 1. Garrett Hampson had 1. Kyle Isbell had 1. Michael Massey had 6 total bases. MJ Melendez had 2. He hit a double. That's 2 bases. Salvador Perez had 5 total bases. All right. So then Alexander had 2 RBIs today. Massey had 3. Perez had 1, and Prado had 1. But what about some other players? So Kyle Isbell went 1 for 4. Hunter Renfroe went 0 for 4. Perez went 2 for 3 with 2 runs scored and an RBI. MJ Melendez continuing his improvements on walks from in that second half. He goes 1 for 1, but was the starter in the lineup. So he goes 1 for 1 with a run scored and 2 walks. Michael Massey goes 2 for 3 with a run scored and his 3 RBIs. Prado 0 for 3, 1 RBI. Did have a strikeout, but that's like one of the very few that he's had this spring. He has shown a great change in his approach and is not striking out as much. All right, let's get to the scoring. So we get to the bottom of the first. Salvador Perez hits his home run. They lead. KC leads 1-0. Michael Massey hits his home run. KC leads 2-0. Michael Massey's homer comes in the bottom of the second. Get to the top of the third. Former Royal Samad Taylor hits a home run. I'm sorry. In my notes, I just had Samad Taylor, but I forgot what he had done. I forgot to put what he had done, but he hit a home run. I remember getting the notification on my phone and being like, Samad Taylor, he doesn't play for the Royals. That's right, because he got traded to the Mariners a month ago, right before spring training started. So Samad Taylor hits the home run, gives the Mariners 1. KC leads 2-1. That was in the top of the third. We get to the bottom of the third, where Massey will hit a double. Salvador Perez and MJ Melendez are scoring. KC leads 4-1. Continuing in the bottom of the third, Nick Prado grounds out to first, and Nick Lofton was on third, ends up scoring. KC leads 5-1. We get to the top of the fourth. Josh Rojas will single, and Ty France will be the runner that scores. Mariners now down by 3, still trailing. All right, we get to Ryan Bliss hitting a single, and Brian Anderson scores. This is still in the top of the fourth. Mariners score another one, but the Royals lead 5-3. And then we get to the top of the sixth. Josh Rojas will score, he walks. Ty France scores again. Mariners are within 1. And here's where it gets interesting. All right. So Ryan Bliss will score on an error by Jake Brentz. Jonathan Clase scores. Spencer Packard scores. Mariners now lead 6-5. Samad Taylor will single, and Rojas will score. And Bliss will also score. So now the Mariners lead 8-5. So that was an eventful 6. Jake Brentz on the hook for that one. We get to the bottom of the 6. Royals are going to try to come back a little bit, as C.J. Alexander will single. Tyler Cropley scores. Nate Eaton scores. The Royals get within 1, but that's the end of scoring. So the Mariners win 8-7. So offensively showed up. Jake Brentz, kind of the sour apple of the bunch, but the old saying goes, it only takes one sour apple to ruin the bunch. So we'll get to game 3. It was supposed to be against the Rockies. Didn't happen. Got rained out. And they just didn't play it. So pretty short and sweet on that one. We get to game 4. All right. And then Seth Lugo is on the start for game 4. He goes 3 innings, 2 strikeouts. A lot better than his previous outing where he gave up 4 home runs to the Guardians. Will Smith goes out again. He pitches an inning, gives up a hit. That hit's an earned run because it's a home run. He does get a strikeout. Daniel Lynch continues to come out and pitch moderately well. A lot. What you want out of someone who's trying to fight for a roster spot. The Daniel Lynch, he goes 3 innings, 3 hits, an earned run, and a strikeout. That earned run was again a home run. So that's game 4's pitching. Remember, this is a 4-2 win against the Rangers. All right. Let's get back to our notes here. All right. So, in terms of extra bases, here we go. Salvador Perez hit a double. Nick Pratto hits a triple. And Michael Massey continues to have a great spring training after, everyone just kind of dogged on him offensively. He showed that he has his moments, but against like the White Sox. So that's cool. He's from the South Side, so cool when we go to the White Sox and plays in. That's what, we can't play the White Sox 162 times. But Massey continues to show an improvement in the bat. He hits another home run. All right, so total bases, Nick Lofton had 2. He didn't hit a double, so he just got on base twice. Massey has 4 total bases, hit a home run. That's 4 total bases. Anyone who's played the show challenges knows that's the easiest way to get those moments done. Perez hits a double, so he gets 2 bases. Pratto hits the triple, so he gets 3 bases. And Renfroe gets 1 base. All right, so Massey has 2 RBIs today. Perez has 1, and Tolbert has 1. Let's get to it. So Maikel Garcia, 0 for 2 with a walk and a strikeout. He's still hitting around 300, so they have to keep dogging on him. But I have to highlight all the starters. Maikel Garcia can't get on base every single time, but still hitting around where you hope him to be at. Bobby Witt goes 0 for 3 with a strikeout. Vinny goes 0 for 2. Salvi 1 for 3 with an RBI. Hunter Renfroe 1 for 2 with a run scored and a strikeout. Michael Massey 1 for 2 with a run scored and 2 RBI. Nick Lofton goes 2 for 2. All right, let's get to the scoring on this one. We get to the top of the second. Michael Massey hits his home run. Renfroe scores. Casey leads 2-0. Bottom, we bounce to the bottom of the 4th. Rangers up. Wyatt Langford for the Rangers hits a home run. Rangers are within 1. Casey still leads 2-1. We get to the top of the 6th. Salvador Perez hits his double. Nick Pratto scores. Casey still extends their lead 3-1. Bottom of the 7th, Jared Walsh. Remember when the Mariners were high on him? But that feels like ancient history at this point. Jared Walsh hits a home run in the bottom of the 7th. Rangers get within 1, but the Royals still lead 3-2. And then we get to the top of the 9th. Rangers are going to hit a sac fly thanks to Tyler Tolbert, and Devin Mann's going to score. We get our final score of 4-2. Royals win. Game 5 is against Arizona. It's another win for the Royals. But let's see here. Who stuck out pitching-wise? I don't have a very extensive list. It was a 6-5 win, so to highlight pitchers, this one, I highlight the starters. So Michael Wacha starts. He goes 2 and 2 2/3 innings. He gives up 3 hits, 3 earned runs, 2 walks. Does have 3 strikeouts. All right. Sauer, he goes 2 innings, 2 hits, an earned run, a strikeout. The earned run was a home run. Josh Taylor followed in the footsteps. And then he goes an inning, 1 hit, 1 earned run, and that earned run wasn't a home run, but he did strike out all 3 batters for his outs. So, rebounds pretty well, gets 3 strikeouts for the inning, but does give up the home run. All right. We have doubles from Nelson Velasquez, Freddie Fermin, and Vinny Pasquantino. Home runs from Salvador Perez, Vinny Pasquantino, and Bobby Witt Jr. So, for total bases, Dairon Blanco gets 1, Nate Eaton gets 1, Freddie Fermin has 3, Pasquantino has 7, Salvi has 4, Velasquez has 4, Drew Waters 1, Bobby Witt 4. All right. RBIs. Big day for Freddie Fermin. He has 3 RBIs. Pasquantino has an RBI. Salvador Perez has an RBI. Bobby Witt has an RBI. All right. Adam Frazier, 1 for 3. Bobby Witt, 1 for 3, run scored, RBI. We know where Bobby Witt's RBI comes from. He hits a home run. Same thing with Salvador Perez. He goes 1 for 3, runs scored, 1 RBI. Vinny, big game. 3 for 4, 2 runs scored, an RBI, and a strikeout. Freddie Fermin, he goes 2 for 3. He has 3 RBIs. All right. Let's get to the scoring on this one. So, we're in the bottom of the 4th. Salvador Perez hits a solo home run. Then after him, Vinny Pasquantino hits a solo home run. So we end the first inning with a lead of 2-0. Kansas City lead. But that doesn't last too long. As we get to the top of the 2nd, Tucker Barnhart will hit a single, and Jace Peterson will score. The lead goes to 1. Kansas City still leads 2-1, but Arizona coming back. Alek Thomas hits a single. Kyle Garlick scores. Albert Almora scores. And Arizona now leads 3-2. We're still in the top of the 2nd. All right. So, but that's the end of the scoring for the 2nd inning. We get to the bottom of the 3rd. Freddie Fermin will hit a single. Vinny scores. Nelson Velasquez scores. KC leads 4-3 now. We get to the top of the 4th. Kevin Newman's going to hit a home run, and that will tie it up 4 apiece. But Bobby Witt said, I don't like ties, so he's going to hit a home run in the bottom of the 4th. KC now leads 5-4. And then just for some little extra salt in the wound, Freddie Fermin going to hit a double in the bottom of the 5th. Nelson Velasquez scores. KC leads 6-4. But Albert Almora said, hey, don't forget about me. I'm going to hit a home run in the top of the 7th. But it's a solo shot, so Arizona gets within 1, but does not score after that. So they 6-5, Kansas City win. All right. We're doing pretty good. And these next 2 games is where it kind of falls off. All right. So game 6 is a loss against the A's. It's a 6-3 loss. Let's talk about it. Brady Singer, looking in mid-season form on this one. He goes 2 1/3 innings, 7 hits, 6 earned runs, 2 walks, a strikeout, and a home run. So, for reference, he started the game 2 of the week, did good. This one, game 6, not so good. So, correction, he started game 1 in 5 days. So then game 6, not so good. Gives up 6 earned runs in 2 1/3 innings. MacArthur had the inning in a third, 2 strikeouts. Then Alec Marsh continues to have a great spring training. And definitely shows that he is fighting for that 5th spot, or maybe continues to do what they had him do, as like have an opener in the 1st inning and then him come in for the 2nd, 3rd, and 5th inning. But anywho, he pitches 3 innings, a hit, 2 walks, a strikeout. Doesn't give up a run, so his ERA at the end of it is .9. It's a .9 ERA for Alec Marsh. All right, so the bats. They try their best, but just can't get close enough. All right. So Nick Pratto hits a home run today. Rousseau gets a base. Eaton gets a base. Massey gets a base. Melendez gets 2 bases. Austin Nola gets 2 bases. Nick Pratto has 5 total bases. Renfroe has a base. Nick Pratto has 3 RBIs today. So Garcia 0 for 3, strikeout. MJ 2 for 2, another walk. So MJ must have been listening to the podcast because he turns it up in the spring and has continued to play very well. 0 for 3. MJ goes 2 for 2 with a walk. Vinny 0 for 3 and a strikeout. Austin Nola 2 for 2 and a run scored. Massey 1 for 2 and a run scored. So Massey continuing to get on base, showing that he is more than just a glove. But we do have to take in consideration that spring training numbers aren't everything, but they do give a reflection of those people fighting for a spot on the roster. Nick Pratto is one of those people. He goes 2 for 3 with a run scored, 3 RBIs, a walk, and a strikeout. So Nick Pratto, another great performance from him. He gets 3 RBIs, but how do we get him? Well, he hits a home run. I mentioned that earlier. So Nick Pratto hits a home run in the top of the second. Massey and Austin Nola were on base, so they score. Pratto scores. Casey 3, Oakland 0. And that's going to be the end of the Royals scoring updates. So let's get to it. Abraham Toro will walk in the bottom of the second on bases loaded. Miguel Andujar will score. Oakland now scores 1. Darrell Hernaiz will hit a single. Lawrence Butler scores. Oakland now 2. Esther Ruiz will ground out. Shea Langelier scores. It's now tied 3 apiece. We get to the bottom of the third. Abraham Toro will hit a home run. Lawrence Butler scores. Shea Langelier scores. 3 RBI home run. 3-run home run for Abraham Toro. Oakland leads 6-3. That's the end of the scoring. And Kansas City loses 6-3. So Oakland gets a little bit of revenge. I remember Scott Kazmir back in the day when he pitched for the A's. A bit of a fever dream there for a couple of years in those championship runs. But man, when the A's came to town, or we went to Oakland and Kazmir was on the mound, it was a guaranteed. It almost felt like a guaranteed loss just because Kazmir figured out the Royals so well when he was on those Oakland teams. But those 2013, 2014, the Oakland A's were, in 2015, A's were really good. So it's not just Scott Kazmir. They were a good team. Great. Pretty good offense. I can't remember too many of those. Starter, though, Josh Donaldson was the third baseman for the A's at the time, because let's look at the iconic Salvador Perez single in the 2014 wild card game in extra innings, gets by Josh Donaldson. So, and then next year in 2015, grounds out in the American League Championship Series to give the Royals the win there, too. So, but I'm thinking about Josh Donaldson because he also announced his retirement. Didn't play for the Royals, so he will not be getting an in-depth analysis. But hey, Josh Donaldson, so many memories about him. I also remember in that 2015 year as well. Edison Volquez and Kelvin Herrera causing a bench clearing brawl. Or no, it wasn't a brawl, but the benches did end up clearing. Actually, no, it wasn't Kelvin Herrera. It was Volquez and Wade Davis. They pitched up and in to Josh Donaldson, and Josh Donaldson complained, and eventually the benches cleared. But Josh Donaldson was on his MVP year, so we'll leave it at that. All right, one more game to cover. Game 7. The Giants are coming into town, and they're going to win 12-9. But how do we get there? So Angel Zerpa gets the start. He goes 2 2/3 of an inning. 4 hits, 4 earned runs, 2 walks, 2 strikeouts, 2 home runs. A lot of twos. Will Smith gets a reunion with a former team of his on those 2014 Giants. And he pitched for the Giants for a couple more years before kind of becoming a journeyman and bouncing around from team for a couple teams before landing back on the Royals. Anywho, Will Smith, inning pitched. 2 hits, an earned run, and a walk. Vinciano goes 2 1/3 innings, 4 hits, 6 earned runs, 2 walks, and 2 strikeouts. Long goes an inning and a third, 3 hits, 1 earned run, and 4 strikeouts. This one I picked just anyone who gave up a run. You gave up a run, you're on the list. So, as Chris Jericho famously used to say, you made the list. But this show is not about wrestling. I used to have a show about wrestling, but we're going to talk about Royals baseball. So, Game 7, loss, pitching, a couple of sour apples there. And the bats. What did the bats do? So Drew Waters hits a double, Kyle Isbell hits a double, Adam Frazier hits a double, and Bobby Witt hits a double today. Tucker Bradley hits a home run. So in terms of total bases, Bradley was 4, Devani was 1, Frazier was 3, Isbell was 3, Perez was 1, Prado was 1, Drew Waters was 3, and Bobby Witt was 3. Tucker Bradley hits a home run. He gets an RBI. Devaney also gets an RBI. Frazier was 2 RBIs. Isbell was 1 RBI. Nick Lofton was an RBI. Perez was an RBI. Prado was an RBI. And Bobby Witt was an RBI. So in terms of looking at the box score, Frazier 2 for 4, 1 run, 2 RBIs. Bobby Witt 2 for 3, run scored, 1 RBI. Salvador Perez, an RBI, and a run scored. Nick Prado, an RBI. So, starters, looking pretty good. And then, Tucker Bradley hits a home run, but he's not a starter. He's fighting for a roster spot. All right. Doing pretty good on time. A lot better than when we were talking about key moments. Much as I like the numbers on them, it's just hard. It's hard to make sense of it without video, and I don't think MLB is going to be a fan of me putting in video, so we're just going to keep editing, but we're not going to do key moments because that's a lot of work. All right. So, our scoring. We get to the bottom of the first. Nick Prado will hit a single. Bobby Witt scores. KC leads 1-0. At the end of 1, we get the top of the second. Casey Schmidt for the Giants hits a home run. Now tied up 1 apiece. David Villar will hit a home run. And still in the top of the second. David Villar hits a home run. The Giants lead 2-1. Bottom of the second. Kyle Isbell hits a double. Drew Waters scores. Yeah, Kyle Isbell hits a double. Drew Waters scores. Isbell ends up going to third on a fielding error by the left fielder. So it's tied up 2 apiece. Adam Frazier hits the double, so then Kyle Isbell scores. KC leads 3-2 after Frazier's double. Get to the top of the third. Marco Luciano will hit a sac fly. Otto Lopez for the Giants scores. It's now tied back up 3 apiece. And then continuing in the top of the third, Luis Matos will hit a double, and then Tyler Fitzgerald for the Giants will score. It is now 4-3. And then top of the fours, Tyler Fitzgerald will hit a sac fly. Joey Bart scores. Now 5-3 Giants lead. Remember when Joey Bart was supposed to be the next Buster Posey? Really hasn't amounted to those expectations, but he's had a pretty solid career. But also, you're trying to replace Buster Posey. It's hard. So to say Joey Bart has been a bust is to say, like, yeah. It's kind of like the same thing as MJ Melendez playing left field. We were so used to Alex Gordon playing left field and his defensive capabilities that we kind of just go and chalk it up as not very good defense from MJ Melendez, but we talked about it in episode 1 that MJ Melendez did pretty alright. But so same thing with Joey Bart, been pretty decent, obviously not 1-for-1 replacement for Buster Posey. Alright, so 5-3 San Francisco lead. Bottom of the fourth. Adam Frazier hits a single. Drew Waters scores. Royals are within 1. Giants 5, Royals 4. Sac fly from Bobby Witt. So Kyle Isbell is going to end up scoring. This is later on in the bottom of the fourth. So Kyle Isbell scores on a Bobby Witt sac fly. It is now tied up 5 apiece. Salvador Perez will continue this rally as he will hit a single and Adam Frazier scores. So then it's 6-5. The bases are eventually loaded up and Nick Lofton will score on a walk. Or not Nick Lofton. Nick Lofton will walk. Salvador Perez will be the one that scores. Kansas City leads 7-5 now. We get to the top of the fifth. Joey Bart will hit a single. Luis Matos scores. And San Francisco is within 1 now. It's 6-7. Kansas City still leads. But that is short-lived as Wade Meckler will hit a double. David Villar scores. Joey Bart scores. And San Francisco leads 8-7. And then we go to the top of the 7th. Joey Bart will hit another single. Ismael Munguia will score. It is now 9-7 San Francisco lead. And they're going to keep going. So Otto Lopez will hit a single. Joey Bart scores. Wade Meckler is third. It is 10-7 San Francisco lead. Tyler Fitzgerald will hit a triple. Wade Meckler and Otto Lopez will score. It is now 12-7 San Francisco lead. Right. Bottom of the 7th. Royals are going to try to come back a little bit. Cam Devaney will hit a single. Ryan Fitzgerald will score. It is now 12-8 San Francisco lead. Bottom of the 9th. Tucker Bradley hits a home run. And that is it for scoring. So the Giants will win 12-9. All right. So that's that. That's our recap. I do have some other stuff because we're doing pretty good on time. So I have some other notes here for you. And we'll have some other stuff to talk about as well. I mentioned at the start of the show that there's some roster moves, so we'll talk about them. They're nothing major, but they are trimming down the 60 man roster to about 50. All right. But otherwise, we keep talking about the Royals and kind of like this isolated bubble of what they're up to. Where are they standing out against the other teams of the spring training, of preseason? All right. So they are 7th in home runs, 14th in RBIs, 24th in walks. As we know, the Royals have struggled to take a lot of walks recently in the last couple of years. But one thing that is improvement is they are 30th in offensive strikeouts. You would think that's bad. It's actually not. It's great. They're the best team in offensive strikeouts. I mean, they had struck out the least with their bats. All right. What about some of the pitching numbers? So they're 18th in team ERA, 12th in strikeouts, 12th in WHIP, which is walks and hits per inning pitched, and then 23rd in home runs allowed. So offensively, pretty good spring so far, pretty much. Besides walks, they're pretty high up there in the upper half. All right, what about team stats? So Salvi leads the team in home runs with 3. Nick Pratto leads the team in RBIs with 9. And then for hits on the team, it is Pratto and Bobby Witt are tied for most hits on the team with 10. Nick Lofton leads the team in walks with 6. And then if I try to arrange by ERA, there's only one person on the team that has pitched enough innings to qualify for innings or for ERA when I was trying to filter ERA on the team, and that's Daniel Lynch. He is the only one that's pitched enough innings to meet the requirements to qualify for an ERA. That is tieable or like measurable because it's based off of pitching at least half an inning per game played. So Daniel Lynch leads the team in innings pitched and would be the only one with a trackable ERA. And then Long and Marsh are tied for the team in strikeouts. Long has done it in 6 innings. Alec Marsh has done it in 10. So Seth Long was a AAA player for the A's last year, but then was picked up in free agency by the Royals and received a minor league contract with a spring training invite and has done well. And I would hope to see him continue through the rest of the year and hopefully make the final cut in the opening day 26. Because he's had a good ERA, but it's only been 6 innings. We've got a lot of strikeouts per inning, so that's pretty cool. So, have some roster moves as well. All right. Starting on the 7th, the Royals optioned Johnson Bolin to AAA Omaha, and then the next day, they optioned Will Klein to AAA Omaha. Steven Cruz on the 9th was then optioned to AAA Omaha. Ben Sears and Cale Imhoff have been assigned to the Kansas City Royals, but they are part of the roster spring breakout, which we'll talk about. Because it's coming up, so we'll have to recap it, and I'm looking forward to it. Alright, so that's that. Keelan Kilgore assigned to the Royals roster as well. And on the 12th, Tyler Gentry has been optioned to Omaha. And on the 12th, John McMillan was also optioned to Omaha. And those were the only moves at the time of this recording. There's more than likely been a couple moves since, but they'll have to get recapped next time. But in between our recordings from episode 4 to episode 5, we have the very first prospect game. So, MLB has decided to allow each team to have a team filled of their best prospects. And they're calling it the Spring Breakout, where it's kind of like the Futures game where it highlights top prospects and we get to see, the average viewer gets to see more of them. And that's what this is. The Royals will play their first Spring Breakout game full of all the prospects, the top prospects in the Royals farm system. Blake Mitchell being the highest ranked. He was the 8th overall pick in the 2023 draft. He is a catcher. He did pretty good in his, because he's drafted straight out of high school, so had a little bit of time to play. So last year, Blake Mitchell had 13 games played, 52 plate appearances, and had 3 RBIs. 32.7% walk rate, 26.9% strikeout rate, so pretty standard for the Royals. Had a 238 BABIP and then a 93 WRC plus. So a little bit below your average in weighted runs created plus. So 100, if we recall, 100 is 100 WRC plus is league average. Blake Mitchell, at 18 years old at the time, was 7 points below the average. But he also was 5 for 19 in caught stealing, which is at 26.31%. So that's pretty solid. So Blake Mitchell, did barely crack the top 100 prospect list of MLB.com, and obviously is the number 1 Royals prospect. I'm highlighting him now, as we'll continue to see what other prospects do during the Spring Breakout. It's supposed to be a tournament, so if the Royals Spring Breakout team wins against the Brewers Spring Breakout team on the 17th, they will advance on and they'll continue to play more games. So hopefully we'll get to see a little bit more of our prospects and maybe help turn the narrative that the Royals farm system has been a sinking ship the last couple of years. They sent it out all the top talent and have yet to really kind of rebuild the farm ever since the championship series, and they have yet to really have a whole lot of early blooming prospects since, besides like Bobby Witt Jr. Bobby Witt Jr. has been the best prospect for the Royals since the World Series, but they put a lot of investment into pitchers. Asa Lacy, who knows if he ever finds a roster again at this point. It seems like he's fallen off the map. I don't know what he's been up to. Last I knew, he had a shoulder injury and hadn't pitched at all in 2023. So maybe in 2024, Asa Lacy finds his footing again. Brady Singer and Kris Bubic were high prospects. Brady Singer has been pretty average. You know, he has his good moments, but then has his not so good moments. Kris Bubic, so far to start his career in the big leagues, not very good. He had a very good start to the 2023 year, but then came down with Tommy John. He is rehabbing, and hopefully sometime in May, we get to see Kris Bubic again in the big league roster. Hopefully continue what he had started last year. Daniel Lynch, another top prospect. Nick Prado, another top prospect. So in terms of big league translation, these guys haven't been too great. But maybe it's just due to them being rushed into the big leagues just because there is no uh, talent before them. And it becomes then this kind of a sink or swim situation. And these guys haven't done that well. Getting brought up at 23, 24 years old, spending a couple of years in the minor leagues. Whit Merrifield was 27 by the time he finally got called up, and he's done well since, but was kind of a late bloomer. So maybe that's the key to the Royals farm is just late bloomers. Unfortunately, top 100 prospect ratings don't really like late bloomer prospects. So in terms of farm ratings, tends to be pretty far down due to young talent really not showing a whole lot. But Frank Mazzucato, I believe, is on the spring breakout roster as well, so we'll get to see a little bit more of him. He had his moments last year down in the farm as well. So we'll highlight some of these spring breakout players next time. All right. So that is all I have for today. This has been episode 4 of the KC Lewis Show. As always, I'm your host, KC Lewis, and we'll see you again next week.